We're going to introduce you to the Red album now, so we hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much.
I am tired eyes, teenage highs, the evidence I've cried. Robin with no Batman, sidekick with no hero, my own worst enemy. I'm in love with my weakness, charging towards the matador cape of my own downfall. I am red today, ole. Mad at myself, I am simmering, I am seething, am I bleeding? Ignorance bludgeoned, roses are not for you. I am the thorn waiting for you to pick what I protect. I am the passion, the sequel, second-hand stigmata. I am here in vain. A pound of flesh, a red letter, an unread letter, the debt and the debtor. I am red tape. I am a velvet rope with no admission. I am waiting for permission. Rehearsing on stage with no audition, red curtains with no one to lift them. I am a work of fiction. Red Riding Hood, with no hood, no woods, no basket full of goods. I am the axe that cut myself open. Both hunter and hunted, heartbreaker and heartbroken. I am words unspoken. I am the fairy tale and the harsh reality. We all make mistakes. Just look at me. Circled, crossed out, underlined. I am a stop sign next to a double red line, undermined, denied, boarding the bus with no fare, posting myself with no stamp, phoning home with no change, red nose day with no comedy. I am red in the face, caught red-handed. I am doing the time, the digital display of an alarm clock, Facebook notifications on your phone, flagged emails, RE, important, urgent, reply ASAP, drop everything, deal with me. Stop what you're doing, help me, look at me. Look at me now, not in a minute, not in an hour, not tomorrow, now. I am red right now. Bathing in blood, drowning in wine, smashing through every stop sign. But when you finally ask me how I am, I'll tell you, I'm fine.
I'm tired of feeling like an army of red ants have learned how to tap dance on my skin. And I hate the way it hurts when I blink. I don't know how many hours my face is spent in this basin. I've already come to terms with the fact that the water won't change anything, but I'm desperate to look into this mirror and see some sort of difference. Wash, rinse, repeat. Currently condemned to a life spent staring into the sink, watching my American dreams of starring in sitcom screens wash away from me, because every morning I know when I wake up, these red eyes will crust and crack blood, wash up in an attempt to wash it off. When with friends try to brush it off, but in the 6 months of ignoring it, it's only made things worse. The eczema has spread from my eyes to neck, forehead, and arms. It sucks that I haven't got the heart to tell my friends that my parents have broken up. But in between talks of happy slaps and talks of who got jacked and who we think's buff, the subject of divorce doesn't come up. I'm glad. I'm hoping it never does. So I just bottle it up. I hate that this eczema is a result of all the lies I've told, if not to the world, then to myself. I hate this constant reminder that I'm too weak to ask for help. I hate that my vulnerability is so easy to see, so it's so easy to tell I'm so out of control. I hate a lot lately, and I heard that's what comes with being 16 years old. And that it gets easier. But in this moment, right now seems to last forever. It's getting harder to hear a teacher. I mean, even if I miraculously pass all my GCSEs, I'll only zone out at a university lecture. An hour goes past and I look at my paper and I realize I've written nothing. I hate that it's taken me this new vision to see that all my old school friends that have been now labeled as troublemakers are merely victims of depression. desperate for a fight, a football, a PlayStation, a world they don't have to be alone in, because it's not the eczema I hate when I see my reflection. It's a man watching his world crumble around him and he's doing nothing. I don't want to turn into this. I promise that no matter how slow I walk, I'll never stall. And even if I can't walk, I'll crawl. And one day, I'm going to take these red eyes with me as a reminder that I've changed everything about me. That I'll be able to speak what I feel and will be in full control of my vulnerability. And one of these days, I'm going to look into this mirror and I will be proud of what I see.
This London afternoon mirrors a gloomy nun, pasty, dull, and draped in brewing folds of dark material, obstructing full light from landing. On days like today, the sun likes to slip out, flash itself in short, occasional bursts. I am sat on a British rail train, forehead glued to glass pane. Little children's stale fingerprints touching my face. My ears vibrate as they swallow Miles Davis. His electric red spinning, my brain spinning, my eyes are barely open. I drink in the bushes, graffiti, and the brown brick terraced houses of Zone 5 London fly past me, like a continuous gutted, frayed ribbon of greens and browns, frayed at the edges. Between Woolwich Arsenal and Charlton, the sun's shimmer dances across the moody sky, till the roof of the tunnel swallows it up. In the several seconds it takes the train to reach the other side, the sun has shriveled back into the grey puff of clouds, whose greyness stands as a backdrop to the continuous frayed green and brown ribbon. Approaching the next station, a zone higher, a starving Charlton Football Club stadium peeks over the black tiles that shelter the terraced housing. The red on its roof darkened by rain, matching the whites of my eyes, bloodshot from THC. Matching a strained horn, weaving itself around the drum and around the bass in my ears. Miles Davis's screaming electric red horn.
The wrought iron gate with peeling black paint swung open with a gust of wind, creaking in the aftermath of freedom from its latch, its rusty hinges grinding back and forth, inviting curiosity and mischief. A young boy's lone shriek rings out in the foggy air. Except it didn't happen like that. There were no serene settings, eerie atmospheres, leaves blowing, no one about. It wasn't the beginning of a horror movie, it was reality. There was violence and blood, screams and shouts, there were witnesses. He bumped shoulders and scuffed on the other guy's trainers. He was tall for his age. The other guy instantly, indignantly fired up in his face. "What's wrong with you?" he scowls. "You must want to get banged." Now, if this guy hadn't been so hostile, things might have gone differently. But that weren't the case, so knowing it would rile him, Casey replied swiftly, "I only bang chicks, hard luck, dude, I'm straight." As predicted, the other guy, Jay, flew into a rage. "What did you say?" He spat vehemently. "I will doppy you then bang your mum." Without warning, Casey ducked the fist that was coming his way, landed one of his own in his opponent's ribcage. Jay, slightly winded and caught off guard, doubled. By now, the crowd had gathered, gagging for excitement. They bubbled for something to talk about to their friends, letting BB and Facebook know there was beef in the ends. Casey and Jay, two complete strangers now, grappling on the pavement, knuckles grazing, skin to skin, limbs entangled, sweating, close enough to be smelling each other's breath, still taunting each other in between the grunts and the effort. Jay went in for a left. Casey took it square and retaliated. Grabbing Jay's head, he pulled him towards him, kneed him repeatedly, then flung him back. Stunned and dazed, Jay stumbled, coughed and wheezed. Looking at Jay from arm's length, Casey decided to leave. Took one last glance as he was hit by reality. But by now, Jay was recovering with a newly fueled craze. Reaching into his jeans, he lurched unsteadily, but with a force and an aim quite precise. Casey gasped, eyes widened with surprise. Red stained and seeped through the white fabric of his t-shirt. The one that said, "I like to flirt with fate, but I design my own destiny." Poignant print, he thought. As he thought, this guy got the best of me. all because his ego wouldn't allow him to say, I'm sorry, bro. Later, they speculated if he was high and the other intoxicated. He was under 18, nearly 6 foot and still growing, athletic and fun, facial hair barely showing. He weren't a good boy, but he weren't a bad boy either, just a young boy discovering the world himself and the meaning of IC39 ether. He was in education, but MTV, COD, Black Ops, GTA, and MW3 was his teacher. But the saddest thing of all was that there were witnesses. But they were just hungry for action, never thinking this is wrong, let me do something out of human compassion. I said the worst thing of all was that there were witnesses, and not one of them tried to stop it.
I write for forgiveness, forgiveness of my apathy. I write for understanding, understanding of myself. I write about me, mostly. Mostly, I write for nothing. But sometimes, I write for money. I write for recognition. My poetry is a protest. Just because I don't march doesn't mean I don't care. I can write in solidarity. I don't have to be there on the street. When a million men march on a beat, I stand a cappella on my own 2 feet. I can speak against injustice from the stage or on a page. I'm a poet, not a politician. But I canvass for your vote with these words I wrote. My ballot box is my bank account. Your voting slips are in your wallet. I write to leave a legacy, but I am no myth. And I rarely write with any idea in mind of how my words will change the world. But I like to think they will. The pen is mightier than any paper it writes upon. I could literally rewrite history, but you can't prove a thing with a page left blank. Are these words worth more on a stage? Yes, if no one is listening. If a writer writes alone, who hears her pen? Just her, but all could read her story. If she shouts out alone, who hears her then? Just her, but at least she feels better. But if no one knows her story, who could say she was alive? When you die, do you know what will survive? Do you trust and treasure your memories most? Do you haunt your yesterday like a living ghost? I write to my ego, a black hole to validation. I could write books on behalf of this nation and archive them to be discovered as truth. Such is the vanity of my youth. But what if we had to write in blood? If we could no longer write our own secret, solitary, hypothetical revolutions? If all words were inextricably linked to their maker? Would you stamp your own DNA on what you say? Write in hemoglobin like hieroglyphics on the wall? If red ink were all that we had, if we had to suffer for our voice, if to bleed were the only choice, I would bleed slowly and measured. My every word would be treasured. I wouldn't write for my leisure or pleasure. I didn't bleed for this poem, but I couldn't help but pour my whole heart and soul into these words. This world has seen enough bloodshed to leave every page-soaked blood red. So maybe we could use our paper as bandages instead.
For 4 weeks, the house girl was our mother. Ours had left with welts on her back. Her husband ran away on the same day, arrogance quickening his legs. For 6 months, my father's parents became mine. I could see his diseases in his father's eyes. His had cataracts from all the wondering they did. I always wondered if mine would cloud over like that. Each day, grandfather greeted the warmed-up sun of noon from the dim entrance of his 2-room house, the glint of the low corrugated roof crowning him with the halo. He smoked his days away with newspaper-rolled cigarettes and drowned his nights in bitter moonshine, whilst his wife ploughed their fields. She fed him with her roughened hands like she did his sons the years he fled for younger thighs. My father's mother had a smile stained by the fluoride mixed in city water, sitting beneath nostrils caked in snuff. Her eyes were decorated with ancient makeup, rubbed into the tiny lines of crow's feet. Her tongue cursed my mother as though they were co-wives. Her insides were rotten chunks of flesh from the brewed, bitter bile she held down. For 6 months, my mother wrote 1 letter. For 6 months, my father visited once, palmed $2 in my right hand for the 2 days he stayed at the homestead. I replied my mother's letter like it was natural and spent my $2 on red skin market mangoes.
The boy I let go, dropped, broke off, up some break, I break down. Amputee me, these stumps cannot stretch round 1,000+ yesterdays. My interest in this time past doesn't make up for my absence. I could have been there, were it not for pride, mine and yours, but mostly mine. I'm not the man you knew. When you knew me, I was bleeding. So many red hands, none of them the real culprit. I was the one doing the lashing, whipping myself with my past, cutting myself off from my present by hacking at whatever wouldn't fit down the narrow path I saw for my future. Self-inflicted severance from parts of myself, now stumps of memory. A right hand, a best foot that went forward to reroute themselves, appearing to forget the violence of our separation. You say I'm gentle. You say my words are gentle. Losing limbs is a painful thing. With my tongue, I lick my wounds.
I make the best of what I have. But if I had your back, I don't think I can make things better. Plied with red wine, it's outlined on your lips. I wanted to try harder, but on a night like this, where every conversation has become awkward, stepping up small talk as the last call looms, your dress is the only thing that fits.
You could be the girl in the red dress. Smoke rising from a cigarette she holds high like a prize or a champagne glass. You could laugh out loud and retell whimsical stories of your day-to-day, but can't, because you've been worried for a while, as far back as you can remember, about how faint wallflowers can fade, about how rational fears can be, how they make it easy to cling to sleep until half the day has been lost through those outstretched fingers. Those are the days you don't care to hold on to anything. You look out of your window. A red sky cloaks you in possibilities that seem too heavy to bear. Juxtaposed with the grey pavement slabs of yours and your neighbours' gardens below. And even Percy's garden is missing those tomatoes, tenderly grown for the 5th summer in a row. To him, gardening lost its appeal after his wife was buried like a seed in winter. So did sharing those little bags of homegrown veg with his neighbours. You miss those tomatoes now, so much more than you ever dreamt you would. And you miss the ease of oblivious.
She is red-lipped and wide-hipped and too strong to keep still, and never the type of girl who to be described as lacking will. She is big in personality and always feels too much, always likes to touch, always running round. She's a girl who likes to rush, and she is sexy. Gets vexed and overly stressed too easily. Takes too long to get ready, and she's always running late. She's a girl you'd love to get a first date with, and she's had a lot of first dates leading into last mornings, but you'd never stick around. You'd always be too scared because she acts like she doesn't care, and she laughs like you're not there, and she swears too much, by ice cream and unnecessarily. And she lies, only sometimes though, mostly tells her friends they look nice in some very strange clothes. Never the type of girl to go too far, or at least never the type of girl who aims to, and she's got a temper. She gets angry easily, flares up when she remembers the grudges of the past. You see, she is flawed, like we all are. She is red, and she's been red in every single part of life so far. She was born red. Pink tinged with magenta streaks, her mouth as it made its first sounds was wide and angry. Came into life screaming like time was listening. She's been red since the day she arrived, and as time went on, she's remained red. Pink balloons littered her one-day-old room and stayed until the helium drained away of its own accord and she was born bald. But as the first strawberry blonde streaks began to heat the top of her head, everyone around her said they reckoned she'd be a redhead when she was older. They were right. From childhood, she's had hair that always seemed to be looking for a fight. Long, thick, it stuck straight out as if daring you to look twice because she could always look longer and shout louder and stay meaner than anyone else ever could, and she would. Her temper was always on fire. But as she grew, her hair became less kitchen wire and more L'Oreal glossy layers. She began to have songs devoted to her hair. She'd enter rooms to Hello Sunshine and say goodbye to Ruby Tuesday, and she loved the attention, so she kept it long. And teenage rebellion came along, but while the piercings apparently came to stay but were soon long gone, her hair was always left alone and kept the same. Soon, she came to accept that she'd stay red until she grew old. For now, though, she's happy to be red and she shows it off. Tight dress, low cut, short enough to cause a stir, bright red, no coat, go hard or go home. She doesn't care about the cold in her high heels, legs out, hair down her bare back, big hoop earrings and a smile that doesn't stop. She's a showstopper, a heartthrobber. An attractive woman in attractive clothes with a confident weight about herself, and so she goes. Girls' night out, so she links arms as they bar hop. Ignoring men, they buy their own drinks all night. She goes from quite tipsy to pretty drunk fairly quickly, so spends the rest of her time laughing. Rose gums and redwood tongue on show for most of the night. Time travels. Mates on either side of her, she totters down Tottenham Court Road as 4 a.m. approaches. She realises it's time for her to go home. Says goodbye. Air kisses outside the station. She decides to walk home. She's close to home. There's not much danger going home alone because she's red. She's brave. Red lipstick still stuck on her lips. Her wits are still about her, she says to herself. 23 minutes until she'll tumble into bed with a cup of tea and her makeup still on, she says to herself. Time travels. Get home. Time travels. Breathe deep. Time travels. Breathe deeper. Time travels. Call police and spend 6 hours answering questions and having examinations and feeling 10 times worse than she did before. And as time travels, she doesn't feel like herself anymore, doesn't even feel red anymore. She is black and blue and yellow, and time travels. Get home again, scrub skin, still feel dirty, scrub again, stay in the shower for just over 2 hours before sleeping the next 3 weeks away. A permanent state of not feeling like herself anymore. She doesn't even feel red anymore, and time travels. You see, it took 4 months before they said they'd given up. They asked around and no one saw anything. They searched the grounds and only found signs of a struggle, nothing concrete. They found a man who matched her description and had a weak alibi, and his fingerprints were on the scene too, but he said that what had happened between the two of you was consensual. That you met briefly and one thing led to another. Are you sure you didn't miss that bit out, miss? We asked you before and you said that in life you lied on occasion. Is this one of those occasions? You admitted you've got a temper. Are you sure you just didn't get angry when he didn't stick around? And you know, you're a strong girl, you're a red girl. I can't imagine a girl like you would have a lot of trouble fighting back. Plus, you told us you had a drink or 2 or 6. Maybe you just felt a little bit confused and got a bit sick, didn't you, love? Time travels. And when all was done and dusted, she told her family and her friends. And you know, it explained a lot. They'd wondered why recently she seemed a little bit less red. Her hair had been falling out, so she kept it tied back or out of sight under large hair-hiding woolly hats. She felt cold a lot more now. And she stopped wearing lipstick. Tight dresses and high heels made her feel sick, and all the carmine, crimson, rosewood, rust, vermilion, Tuscan, chestnut, wine and flame in her wardrobe was cleared out. She couldn't stand the colour anymore. She didn't feel like herself anymore, didn't even feel red anymore, until a friend made her see it again. Heard the story and asked her, why didn't you take a cab home that night? She said, why aren't you asking why someone attacked me? Her aunt was the same. I always told you not to dress that way, she said. And she replied, dress what way? My way. The way I want to dress should not be dictated by what might happen to me. It's his fault it happened, so don't blame me and what he could or could not see. Her mate's boyfriend said, didn't you lot drink a lot that night, though? And she replied, so whether I was drunk or not, I did not say that he could touch me. And so she felt that anger rise. It was red behind the eyes because everyone else seemed to think the same sort of thing. They'd tell her how she'd always been so red-lipped and wide-hipped and too strong to keep still. Is it any wonder how a man might feel when he saw her? And you're sexy, they'd say. You get vexed and stressed so easily. Is it any wonder that he hit you so hard and you swear so much and you lie sometimes? Are you telling the truth now about how he touched you that time? You know, that thing happened. Did you know him? You might have known him. He probably saw you earlier, or you hooked up with him earlier. You hooked up with a lot of guys, right? I mean, that dress makes you look like amazing, but quite, up for it. Maybe he simply got the wrong idea. Maybe this was all one big mix-up. Maybe you overreacted just a little bit. Regardless, you seem to be okay now. At least you know now not to be quite so reckless. I mean, you're flawed. We all are, but what I'm trying to say is you can avoid these things. You can avoid these things. And so she stays red. A different red. A red that she's never been before.
We gather at night, the men dressed in ostrich feather headdress, and the women's ankles adorned with dry chicken bones, gutted or full marrow, rattling whenever they stamp their feet to the arched drum beat, hiding in a dark corner of my grandparents' living room. My father's sisters sing the incantations for rain as the room gets heavy with a song that rings to our dead, whose spirits wander the deserts of a fleshless realm, thirsty and parched. We pour libations of thick, heavily fermented millet beer and open our ears to the spirit medium, a distant aunt who hears their voices speak their prophecies. We all wear the garments the color of raw scarlet, the color of a family secret no one wants to see seep out of door cracks. The windows are swathed in black cloth, containing our ancestors' voices in the home.
Lips trembling, cheekbones high, smooth, unblemished skin, proudly lifted chin with a forced bravery, eyelids lowered, watching only the elder's large, unfaltering feet approaching slowly, focusing on the movement of the grooved, dried, cracked, hardened heels, comparisons drawn to one's own, differing in every aspect except tone, but the most prominent difference was they remained still. And before it was known, they were toe-to-toe, and the flash of steel glinted in the sun rays, a firm pressure as the hand that had raised that sun met flesh, etching the first of many paths that bled into adulthood. They savagely sawed off her labia, her clitoris, stapled together the mangled remains, leaving but a small hole to urinate and menstruate through. Silenced, flung back into the deserted midnight blue-black sky, leaning against rocks for support, the cool breeze her only comfort to soothe the blood coursing through her body, pulsating at her remorselessly inflicted wounds. Sweat, blood, and tears mixing in the sand in pools at her feet, intertwined with her fears. Urine stings and burns her raw flesh. Infection greedily takes advantage of her vulnerable state, but her izzat, her honor was unbreachable. Sealed with a cultural tradition that would only be broken by her chosen suitor, the one whose family would bring her family comfort at a price she would pay. Soundlessly screaming and crying, erect penis pushing and forcing through barriers of scars to reopen wounds that should never have been. Laying night after night thereafter, mentally detaching. Her body laying on a cold bed, hot lust covering her every inch of her skin, crawling and revolting. And her bloodied, stained sheets, holding only a fraction of her pain, would be checked and lifted in rejoice, glorified as she cries in the bath, water mingling with sperm, plasma, and hemoglobin. Celebrations would ensue as she slowly lost her life in the hue of lunar rise, only to be reincarnated as a zombified vessel and slave, to pave the way for the next generation of sons and daughters to endure the same fate.
Things she never wanted for you. Hunger, facial scars, to be taken for a fool. Her face is yours. Her palms have been used for doormats. Her lips are full and drip with praise. Her eyes are like your eyes, except that they smile and are colored with faith. This is when she warns you of the toe steppers, shoulder climbers. Know them by name. This is when you see her past in your reflection and your skin burns. The ball in your throat is a fist, and the stone in your belly an anchor. And your tears make tracks along your jaw. You see red for her. Rage could never pull skin so tight as yours does for her.
The Apology of Red, inspired by Ord. I've thought about this a lot, though clearly not enough, as your face still shows scars, sore, and apparent like highlighted facts. As I speak these words, they squeeze out of your mind, offended. I chase the smooth trail over heated cheeks and mark the moment my attempt to peel you apart becomes like fire under Baby Bell wax. Your melted smile blisters my palm, but all I can offer is an apology. Snatched 3 times while ransacking your control bulbs for the colour light that doesn't fuel rage on roads. I'm desperate to return to what was home. You say the embers still glow, and I am warned that a blaze could spark at the spit of flippant comments, so I close my mouth and sentence heartbeats thick tantrums to silence. Imprisoned in a glass bottle that captures nature's ambiguity, I choke on its contents, thrashing at the top and sides and bottom, sounds summoned to catch your eye like a thief caught. I've stolen your moment, forfeited my defense, falsified my repentance, and any retreat is in a tired vein. Indebted I am bound to watch you pluck through thorns, petals that suspend pathetically at the release of your pinch and land as wounded stains on a white flag, fluttering like poppies in a field. And my salt tears only add insult to injury, so I wait. Impatience piercing through gums to taste iron, my heat won't melt, so I wait for you to cast and direct me to where I'm needed to be. And I'll stamp your muttered prayers onto blank sheets and I will post them via letterbox to me, and you will notice that I have finally listened. Your heart's not bright enough, he said. Too close to white, not red. I can't see what you need, so show me, please. Wear your heart on your sleeve so I can see what you need. I said, well, my heart's in my hand. I'm giving it away.
My fingers type away at a breakneck pace. The sound fills the room and is followed by a little laughter, a giggle, if you will. I didn't anticipate this, you here, but I did dream of it. And what's most magical is that the moments we shared were never the ones I wrote or what I thought romance was. Not Pizza Express, but Greg's. Though there was a smile on your face the whole time. Consequently, that put a smile on mine. We're watching The Wild Bunch, and your head is on a pillow that is on my lap. We haven't kissed yet, or confessed our need to connect, and your head is on a pillow that is on my lap. You're beginning to fall asleep, and I'm almost freaked out by how effortless loving you is, so I walk you to your room and I tuck you in. I could have made a move. Maybe you would have welcomed it, but I didn't, And weirdly enough, I'm thankful for it because I've never known courtship. And evidently, despite my years watching Disney, I didn't know romance. So it's another walk home now. And I've walked along these same streets for so long, yet never felt admitted to the club of street dwellers. I'm constantly walking through and past, trapped in bypass, though honestly my journey is living. Though recently it's felt like my journey has been spent living the same thing. Tonight, these streets see me walk slow, look up and take in the view with a new perspective. My mood's reflective, almost glad for my lonesome nights. Because in such a crowded city, so many get so lonely, so quick, and just cash in, but it's not worth it. If another could appreciate what her hand and mine meant, they'd understand why I walk with this slow motion skip in my step. And in time, the body moves too fast for the mind to comprehend the situation. Undercovers our energy combined, pumps and adrenaline so strong that the pulled hair and bitter necks are painless, and enthusiastic legs wrap round and squeeze out hidden tears that fall in the skin you've longed for years. I close my eyes, and when I open them, I lose my best friend forever. And make a silent promise to make sure I don't fuck this up, because the more I grow, the more I realize I don't know much. But this is a lifestyle I could get used to. And it turns out I like to be touched.
This is for the time you put your arm around the shoulders of a stranger. On a train platform at dusk, you sat side by side and the sky was red. So she peeked at you from behind her tear curtain and your face was like the sun to her. You heard your own voice give something like, "It'll get better." So she told you of a mother who spoke to shadows, and you found what you had in common. That as girls, you both had become your mother's mothers and found that fractured way to raise yourselves. Your only advice, find your space. Because inevitably, when you live with a person, you live with their burdens too. And she looked like she had the kind of burdens that would make a stranger want to embrace her, make a baby of her.
There's some things I've never done, like watching a blood-red sunset whilst keeping her warm, or walking across a beach arm in arm, picture perfect. I might not be romantic, but that time we had a cup of tea in Clapham Junction Station was nice. And I don't like drinking tea in those sterile coffee chains that never taste right, and those places are just noisy and uncomfortable, but that day it was all right. She drank this coffee with a beehive of cream on the top, which she somehow managed to avoid getting on her chin with all the elegance of Audrey Hepburn, yet still remaining so down to earth. It was one of those rare occasions when she dropped her guard. We just talked, relaxed and laughed in the eye of an early evening commuter storm, equalizing all negative forces surrounding us. There's a past between us which almost saw us together, but it never happened. And now there's a present, where we occasionally discuss what could have been. If only I'd said something before instead of choosing to keep my mouth closed for fear of losing a friend. She says she felt the same. But these moments of honesty are like a species of butterfly rarely seen because she conceals her feelings in shiny paper, gift wrapped with precision. I'm convinced that underneath the glossy exterior lies a gift that when opened will need handling with care. It may well not be me that gets to peel off the many paper layers, but whoever it is will need patience because she doesn't open up easily. These days I tiptoe blindfolded around her, not knowing where I stand nor wanting to make a mistake. It was too late when I eventually tried the direct approach and I walked away, accepting my rejection like a World Cup runners-up medal, knowing I got so close. It wasn't what I wanted, but I felt I could finally begin the long walk down the road and moving on, until whispers began to tickle my ears of anger when I started seeing someone else. Things I said to others that were never said to me. It was frustrating, and soon enough I was like the kid scratching at the present under the tree, wondering if Christmas will ever come. But I just don't get an answer. When we meet, for the most part it's fun. I enjoy her company, though she nearly always exits first, as if she's stage managing her own anxieties, whilst mine take on the role of a theatre critic, harshly analysing every word of my own performance. I would walk away and draw a line under it all if I knew 100% where I stood, so I could see how hard I'd fall if it all went wrong. But I just can't let go. Sometimes when we speak, I feel this spark of her say something to make her laugh, and she flushes a little red in the cheeks. Her head moves to the left in embarrassment, then on cue, her eyes open up, lighting a promenade across her face, the white cliff smile completing the perfect portrait that hangs in the gallery inside of my head. I lay awake at night visualizing these pictures, a Sistine Chapel inside the roof of my skull. I've never considered myself the romantic type. Maybe I've got layers too. But unless she opens up, I can't unravel anything. And right now, all I want, more than ever, is to have my mind at peace. I need the sleep. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Red Album.
Right, 1, 2, 3.
Okay. I just want to say a big massive thank you to Rubix for inviting me tonight to the launch of the Red Album? No? Yeah, to launch of the Red Album. Yeah, well done guys, it's brilliant. I can't wait to listen to this when I get home. Special thanks to Dean Attar. See you later.
Okay, hi. I just wanted to say I really congratulate Rubix Collective. I really enjoyed the Red Album, and I wish the best for them, for their future, and for the future of youth and spoken word. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Red Album is so cool. You should definitely buy it and stuff, and Rubix are cool, and yeah, it was awesome. Yay!
So I've just seen Rubix perform their Red Album, and I have to say I was inspired, I was moved, and I was actually quite touched.
I just want to say thank you for the Red Album. It's a piece that collectively allows you to go to the parts of yourself that you wouldn't necessarily always choose to go to. And that's really special because it gives you that choice, lets you go there and lets you let go of it. And that's really wonderful. So thank you, Red Album, and thank you, everybody.